Senor Andy.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. I want to start by saying because this is driving me insane, okay? And I feel like you're gonna say it at some point tonight, and it's gonna
Oh,
bother me. But right now, I think you remember in 2020 when Trump was having rallies and they were doing the whole like, oh, Biden can't even, get people to come out and rally for him. There's nobody showing up, so he's not gonna win. You know that whole
right.
thing? I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the left has turned into that in the last week because like the Democrats are having some really packed rallies right now. Like they got Obama, Eminem, Beyonce tomorrow in Houston, which
Oh,
we'll get to
that's a
that in a
big one.
minute. But Kamala and Beyonce in Houston only makes sense if they think that they've got certain states in the bag and they're going for Texas, or they think that possibly Cruz could lose. But
I think that's Cruz. That's a
you're
Cruz
going
move.
after Cruz. So either way, Bruce Springsteen was on stage. Tyler Perry, I think is his name, the black guy that
Oh
does all
yeah.
the movies, Medea type
Yeah,
stuff. He was
yeah, yeah.
on. Obama's been everywhere. They got Bill Clinton out in like the rural white areas in Georgia.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah, so Bill Clinton actually like there's some old people that like listen to Bill Clinton. So they're using him really smart. They're putting him in like farm country where
Okay.
he's kind of got a little Joe Biden quality where like old white people know and trust him. So they're
Yeah.
being smart. I will say that's the one thing. They're being really smart about where they're using everybody. Having Eminem come out in Detroit was a big deal. Um,
Perfect.
they've been smart. Trump is definitely struggling to fill big venues. Like he's not doing big venues, he's doing much smaller ones, and even then they're a
Yeah.
little unfilled. I don't want to hear it though. Like everybody's like, "Oh, look at the rallies. Kamala's gonna win." Nah, dude, we're sitting neck and neck. Like this is gonna be so close by the states. It could be an electoral landslide for one of the other. Like one or the other of them could win seven of the swing states, and it could end up looking like a big thing. But they're all gonna be super close, like razor thin. Um,
Yeah.
real quick polling update. Pennsylvania, Harris is up less than 1%. All of these, the margin of error is between 3.5 and 4.5. So let's just say a margin of error of four.
Yeah.
So knowing
Wasn't
that,
Trump what wasn't Trump up less than 1% last time we talked?
I'm not sure. This is the poll of polls, which I
Okay.
listened to a smart thing. So I'm going to say this next time we talk about polls in the next episode, I'm only going to talk about polls like the most recent ones. So it's not going to be the average anymore. And like certain polls
Yeah.
vary, but the average that I look at does 30 days worth. So some of the
Okay.
polls weighing on this are from 4 weeks ago. Like a lot's happened
Okay.
in 4 weeks. So we're going to shift to looking at just the current polls. This is still the average. Uh,
Okay.
margin of error 4%. So these are all ties. But Pennsylvania, Harris up less than 1%. Georgia, Trump up 1% exactly. North Carolina, Trump up less than 1%. Michigan, Harris up less than 1%. Arizona, Trump's up 2. Wisconsin, Harris is up less than 1%. And Nevada, she's up less than 1%. So the three blue wall states that if she just wins these three, she wins. All three of those, she's up less than 1%. 4 point margin of error. Okay. North Carolina, it's doable for her. Everybody keeps saying Georgia might be doable, but that one, I still think even if she wins that one, the election board's going to screw that up. So I'm
Oh,
just saying
okay.
this could go either way. And like, I feel like at some point tonight, you're going to go, I really think she's going to whoop his butt. I don't even think it's going to be close. Like, I'm so ready for you to say that. And like that weird false confidence is really upsetting to me right now. Like, no,
Uh,
either side that's really confident right now, like, is probably in for a rude awakening. So just
yeah.
my thought.
I don't know. I just don't think people are going to turn out for Trump.
So far, they're doing it. Like even in Nevada, he's putting up record numbers with early voting. Like
Oh, really?
Republicans are out early voting Democrats in Nevada.
Oh, what? Oh, so they can't tell you which way they voted, but they
All
can
we
tell
know is
you.
party affiliation. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I did see something because they've been running with that for like 2 days. Of like, oh my God, look, like Trump's killing her in Nevada. But apparently they're only saying the party affiliation of who voted early in person. They're not releasing any mail-in information right now. So that might lean
Okay.
heavily for Kamala. I don't know.
Okay.
So real quick, other than that, are you still doing a daily dose of like right wing media? And have you been paying attention to Tim Pool for the past couple days?
A little bit, but
Have you
not
seen
much.
all
I've
the
been.
Have you
Go
seen the
ahead.
Tim Pool drama?
The Russia stuff or what?
No, so he like left some kind of cryptic like like basically saying he's about to end his podcast, like just shut it down. I think he said that like at the end of one episode, and he was like, tomorrow we're going to talk about this, and like basically said he was going to shut down the podcast. So then he came on and gave like a weird rant where he was like, it's not about the money. He said a couple times it was about devoting time to his family, but then twice he also said, I don't have a family.
Yeah, I
So it
was gonna
made
say I
no
don't think.
sense. But then he ended up saying that he's just going to downsize a lot, like scale back, I guess, less people. Like, I think it almost seemed like he might be having like a mental breakdown because he's now the head of. He has several people working underneath him, probably a lot of stress. The whole Russia thing paying him probably weighs into that a little bit.
Oh yeah,
But so apparently his whole platform is going to shrink considerably. At first he said he was going to go away completely and just quit, and now he's saying he's just going to shrink it. My thought is now that that Russian money, because he was making good money from the Russians, I'm wondering if now that that's got cut off, he's looking at the numbers and he's like, "Oh, I can't afford to be this big."
yeah.
That's what I
Oh yeah.
see.
That's
So
that's what I think too. Yeah. Huh.
yeah. So anyhow,
Interesting.
yeah. So and then other than that, I got a list of stuff tonight. Anything you want to get to before I start rattling shit off?
Um, Tulsi Gabbard.
She came out as a Republican, which I feel like she did that 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, she
Like,
joined the Republican Party. She said that the Harris administration is anti-freedom, pro-censorship, and open borders and pro-war, which I did want to talk about U.S. troops in Israel now.
so can I say something real quick before you get to that about Tulsi Gabbard specifically?
Go ahead.
the
Yeah.
the thing about Tulsi Gabbard that's funny is like she ran as a Democrat to get into Congress and won. But if you look about everything before that in her life and since that, it seems like she's a Republican born and raised. Like I watched a little deal on her. Like her father was the pastor at a church. She used to like help. She was like I don't want to say she worked at him, but she would go and help at these retreats that were basically gay conversion therapy. So like
Oh
she,
shit.
as a teenager, she helped like convert gays using the power of Christ. Then went into the military, came out and ran as because if you're in Hawaii and you want to run for office, it's got to be as a Democrat. You're not going to win as a Republican in Hawaii. So it makes
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
I'm kind of like, at what point was she really a Democrat? Like, I think she might have just ran as a Democrat and won. But other
Yeah.
than that, if you look at her upbringing, it's like that makes no sense that she was helping her parents at their gay conversion camp and then was a Democrat. Like those two things don't go
Uh,
together. Anyhow, let's talk about Israel and Palestine.
yeah. So Israel killed two of their leaders, and they're still bombing.
Two of whose leaders? You got to be
Two
more
Hamas,
specific.
Hamas's leaders.
Okay.
Two of the leaders of Hamas, right? They killed I don't know the names, but the leader of Hamas,
Can you get close
supposedly.
on one of their names? Could you even get close? Could you venture
No,
a guess?
I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try.
Okay. Sinwar.
Uh, what's his name?
One of them is Sinwar. He was the head oh man, Hezbollah. He was the
Okay.
one, if you saw the drone footage right before they blew up his building, they flew a drone into his building. Have you seen this?
No.
So they were like using a drone to like see if there was any fighters, and they flew one up into like it's a building that had been bombed, and there's a guy sitting there like just he's sitting with his back to the thing, and he's kind of looking over his shoulder at it. And at one point, he grabs like a piece of wood or something, probably from the building, and like threw it at the drone. And then that's when they pulled the drone out and bombed that building. So that was like people are saying it was dumb of them to release that because it was almost like a last act of defiance for that guy. So like, oh look,
Mm.
he died fighting. He was fighting till the end. He was throwing things at the drone. So it almost made him look like a badass. Like I don't think they thought about this in advance or meant to do it, but like the video had the opposite impact of what they thought, and it almost like energized Hezbollah. Like, look, our leader got killed, and he was throwing things at the drone till the very
It was
end.
probably strategic by Netanyahu. I mean, he wants a forever war at this point. He
Yeah,
wants
he he doesn't seem to want it to end at all.
no.
Yeah, which before you say anything else, Hezbollah and Hamas are bad. It would be
Yeah.
good to eliminate them. Like that
Oh, yeah.
that underlying principle needs to be we all agree on that.
Yeah.
Now, what is the acceptable civilian casualty rate in order to eliminate them? I feel like whatever it is, we've gone way past it. Like way
Way
past it.
past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to say that no civilian should ever be killed in these situations, but it's a fact of war. Like you can't do it
Yeah.
without, but you got to minimize it. It's got to be
Yeah. I mean,
bearable.
the world court thinks that Netanyahu is a criminal of war at this
Yeah.
point. That's that's just a telltale sign that he's fucking up. He's not doing a good job.
I hate to be not on the side of Israel, but I think there's a decent chance that like years from now, like this is referred to as a like a Palestinian genocide, and like the history books won't look kind on the time we just wiped out Gaza. Like
Nope.
we
No,
we didn't
absolutely
do
not.
it, but we definitely sat back and gave them weapons to do it. So
We gave them up and we're giving troops right now.
so we're not giving them troops. Where did we just stationed troops somewhere in the Middle East, but it's not like there to fight Hezbollah or Hamas.
We have troops in Israel flying drones for Israel.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I heard. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna look
and
into that
I
and
think
we're
it
gonna
was
talk about
Kyle Kalinske. I think it was Kyle Kalinske that said like there are children with bullet holes in their head and in their heart.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about, we have some troops that are over there that basically are to shoot down the rockets that because they're still Hezbollah is still firing rockets from the north like every night. So we put a
yeah,
bunch of our equipment over there, and it's not this. We sell them the old like basically it was the Patriot missiles that intercept.
yeah. We have
But we,
troops there running that equipment.
yeah, and but that is only to shoot down missiles. Like they, and I believe that. I know the government probably doesn't tell us the truth a lot of the time.
But
So
we
like
have troops on the ground in Israel.
shooting down the missiles.
Yeah.
Basically providing defense. So
Yes.
I think we should say, hey, we're going to pull them out if you don't stop, like, or at least exercise a little bit of caution. Like at this point, I would take just a little bit of caution. I'm not asking for a lot. Just
Well,
try.
it just seems like they're everybody in our Congress is for Israel, is
There's a
right on
very
Israel's side.
there's less than there's less than six probably in Congress and the House. There's probably six or so that
Yeah,
aren't fully behind Israel.
yeah, and it's
So
because why is it?
I think a lot of it has to do with the money. I think there are some that genuinely like it's odd, but if there's a war between the Jews and the Muslims, like Christians immediately back the Jews on that. And there's a whole thing about
Yeah.
how we have to protect Israel because of the second coming of Christ. There's a whole
But
I
do
need
we
a
want the second coming of Christ or do we not want the second coming of Christ?
apparently it won't come. We won't be saved, I think. John Oliver did a great thing about this like a year ago. I want to go back and rewatch it because I need to make it make sense. But yeah, like there it is believed by Christian, especially like the Christian nationalists, like the conservative Christians, that for some
Uh-huh.
reason we have to defend Israel because then when Jesus comes back in the rapture, like we can be saved. But if we don't defend Israel and it falls into the wrong hands, then like we won't be saved and we'll be raptured. It's something like that. I
Oh,
butchered it, but it's something like that.
I don't remember that in the Bible.
I don't know where they're getting that, but apparently it says it somewhere. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so
We'll have to do some
that's
research.
the whole. I part of it's money, part of it's the religious side of things, and part of it's hate of brown people. Like I think that there's just people in general in America that are like they look at the two sides and they're like, no, we're on the side of the white ones, not the brown ones. That's a given. You know
God.
that's true. I'm not saying that's right, but you know that's a fact.
It's probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially for the Christian nationalists.
Yep. Which this is the thing that'll upset everybody. But if there was a man named Jesus born 2,000 years ago in the area that we now call Israel, he was a Muslim looking dude.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that's, I've had that discussion recently with people that are like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's what all the people in that area were. He was
Yeah,
brown. To say the least, he was brown.
totally.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, Jesus was brown.
Pete,
What about
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say that I feel like I've never gone into a church in America and seen a brown Jesus. It's always like a very, very chiseled and handsome Jesus that, like, yeah,
They're lying to us, Andy. They're
he looks
lying
like a
to us.
hippie, but anyhow,
He does look like
yeah,
a hippie. Yeah.
Jesus is
And
kind of
the
a
funny
hippie.
thing is somebody pointed this out. Jesus would have been a socialist, like a complete
Man,
socialist.
I've had this discussion with people, but what is it, Matthew 25:32 is all about like feeding the homeless and taking care of those that are less fortunate than you. And like if
Yeah.
you just look at that, it's like, oh, Jesus is a big old lefty. Like,
Yeah,
just saying. He definitely had some socialist ideas.
very
And
much.
he thought being rich was not a good thing. There was some quote that it's easier to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to go to heaven, or something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, anywho, that's that.
So
We're choosy about the parts of the Bible that we like to really pay attention to.
yeah, it's
Like
like the like eating pork is bad in the Bible. It,
eating fish on a or eating red meat on a Friday or something like that was a hell-worthy offense up until like
oh,
I think it was in the early 1900s, and at one point we just all decided that we don't care about that part. Like that part
oh,
doesn't count. That's there's
Well, they do.
interesting.
The Catholics do it like a certain time of year.
Lent,
Like,
yeah, which
yeah.
we're both Catholic. We should know exactly what that is, but I never did Lent. Uh, but no, like it's funny because I read a fun story one time. It was an article, and it was showing like at what year we stopped doing a certain thing. Like there was things that we did, and it was like the Bible says this, and we got to do it. And then there was a hard cutoff. Like in 1750, we all decided no, like we're not going to pay attention to that part anymore. And then 100 years later, there was another thing, and we were just like, nope, not doing that anymore. And it was almost like, was there a council that got together and decided, like, we're not going to pay attention to this line or this passage, whatever it is? Funny, funny stuff.
But the gay thing, we'll keep that one. The
Yeah,
shellfish thing, we're gonna get rid of the shellfish thing and the pork
yep.
thing, and we'll get rid of what else?
I don't know if the Christian Bible says anything about pork. I know that Muslims don't eat pork. I guess because a Muslim, you know what the Abrahamic religions are? Have we talked about this?
Um, no, go ahead.
So the Abrahamic religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and they all three trace back to like the same part. Like at one, all of those groups were one group back in the day, and they were Jews. And then at one point, a guy named Jesus came along and said, I'm the son of Christ or the son of God, and I'm here to die for your sins, whatever it was. And if you believed him, you followed him, and you became a follower of Christ, which is a
Right.
Christian. If you said,
Mhm.
he's not the son of God. He might be a prophet, but he's not the son of God. You stayed a Jew. And that was like the
Mhm.
first division. And then in 700 AD, so 700 years after Christ, Muhammad came down and said, I am the new prophet. I don't think he didn't claim to be the son of God. He just said he was sent by God. And he
Oh,
told them that he rode a unicorn into heaven to
oh,
talk to God and then rode it back down to earth. And if you believed him, you split off and became a follower of Islam. And if you didn't believe him, you stayed Judaism or Christianity. So, but they all trace back. Like the beginning of all three of those Bibles are the same, like to a
yeah,
certain
yeah.
point, and then it branches off.
The
So
Old Testament is that?
I believe so. I believe the Old Testament
Okay.
counts for all of them. So
Okay. Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
really, really weird, right? Because like we don't think of it
Okay.
that way today. And I still say it's funny because like when you hear certain things, it's like, hold on, wait. He told them that he was riding a unicorn into heaven. Like, who would believe that? But if
No,
you look at every religion, you can be like, hold on, Noah was 400 years old and two of every animal, like
he was like 1,000 years old, wasn't
whatever
he?
he was. But every religion has some stuff. But if you grew up on that, you're kind of
Yeah.
brainwashed. We're like Noah's Ark. Me and you grew up on Noah's Ark, and that seemed like a fact,
Yeah.
for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
take someone who's not a Christian and you try to tell them that story, they would be like, wait a second. Like,
Kangaroos can't swim.
yeah. Anyhow, how did they swim from Australia to
Yeah.
Israel, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
God
yeah,
works in mysterious ways, Andy.
that's enough religion. What else you got?
Rudy Giuliani.
Dude, he lost everything. Uh,
Everything.
so this is all because of this isn't even the Dominion one. This is the two girls in
Oh,
Atlanta. And it was a mom and her daughter, and she handed her like it wasn't a candy, but it was like a something. It was they were working through the night counting votes, and she handed her daughter some kind of a food item or a snack item. And he claimed they were passing a USB back and forth, and he swore it up and down. They ended up suing him for defamation and won like $148 million settlement. And he had,
wow.
I guess they're saying he had moved money around to make it like, up, I don't have anything. There's nothing in my accounts. You can't have it. So the judge, like 2 days ago, ordered that like his New York apartment, which is worth like, I think $100 million, something ridiculous. His
Yep.
collection of watches, his like Lou Gehrig signed jersey,
The dude
like,
had like 20 high-end watches.
yeah, his watch collection alone
The
was worth like a
mayor of
million
New
dollars.
York.
Yeah. So yeah, he's flat out broke. He's had everything taken from him. Um, everybody around Trump seems to suffer, but like Trump himself skates right through. But if like the other thing, General Michael Flynn, who was Trump's first, so I don't, he wasn't the Secretary of Defense. I can't remember what he was. But he was spouting all the Dominion voting system lies. He was the whole stop the steal thing. He's been big on that. His deposition in one of the lawsuits just came out like today or yesterday. And like under oath, they're like, do you have any evidence that, they were flipping votes or whatever it was? And he was like, nope. And they were like, do you have any reason to believe that they were doing this? And he was like, nope. And it was like, oh, wow. Like under deposition, your story changes completely. But tomorrow you'll be on stage and you'll be saying Dominion stole the vote. Like kind of
Oh.
hysterical. Yeah. Just saying what they got to
Yeah.
say to make
Who?
money.
What was the other general? that just came out with Trump is a fascist and
General
he's
John Kelly, who was Trump's
Kelly.
chief of staff. He was the head of the Department of Homeland Security for the first year or so, and then moved to be Trump's chief of staff because he did such a good job at Homeland Security, and Trump liked him, so he brought him in as chief of staff. And apparently, he hated Trump all the way through it. Like he's a four-star Marine that's devoted his life to public service, and he probably looked at Trump and didn't. I don't think he cared for him from the start. So
For
people that
sure.
say like, "Oh, there's bad blood there." 100%. Like there is bad blood. Trump or Kelly does not like Trump at all. But I also don't think General Kelly is the kind of guy to make this up at all. And
No.
it sounds exactly like something Trump would say. There are people that are saying right now, they're going on the air and saying like, I can't picture Trump saying that.
Yeah.
I can 100% picture him saying what he supposedly said is that he wishes he had generals like Hitler did. And what he meant by that was generals that are loyal to him because a general
Yeah.
swears an oath to the Constitution, not to a
Right.
president. Trump doesn't
Real.
like that. He wants them to be loyal to him above all else. What's funny is Kelly said he pointed out to Trump, his generals tried to kill him 3 times, right? Hitler's generals 3 different times tried to assassinate him, and Trump apparently said that wasn't true. He was like, no, that didn't happen. And I was like, that 100, like he ended up killing them. Like General, was it Rommel, who was like the best commander in World War II, ended up killing. He basically killed himself to take the gentleman's way out because he tried to kill Hitler and didn't succeed, and that was his
Oh,
punishment. Was here, go kill yourself, and he did it. Like this isn't disputable. And the other thing Trump apparently, I guess, said many times that like Hitler did some pretty good things.
yeah.
I've heard this on the right for the past couple of years, and I don't understand it because like Hitler invented the highway system. Like at least under his rule, it got invented. I don't think he came out and did it, but Germany invented the highway system while Hitler was in charge. Okay.
It wasn't
Yes,
all bad.
yes,
Like,
the highway system is good, but like in general, there's no need to try to find the good points in Hitler. Like the
yeah.
fact that anybody's even looking for that, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, mass genocide, but like, but it wasn't all bad. I don't That's a weird thing where the elements, and we talked last time about the Nazi flags that are showing up at more and more at the Trump rallies. Like, what is it with the far right and like idolizing Nazis or Hitler? I don't get that. It doesn't make
It's
sense.
weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Didn't you say that there were Nazi flags at a Trump rally
So yeah,
recently?
I know it was at the boat parade, and Laura Trump was
Oh,
on a boat, and the boat directly behind her had 2 Nazi flags on it. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why they didn't like just for optics, if nothing else, like tell that boat to get out of there or to take his flags down. But like you don't have Laura being videoed because they were videoing her from the boat in front, so you're looking back at her, and past her is a boat with Nazi flags right behind her. Like
oh my God.
a little odd.
That
So
is very odd. And
yep,
you wonder if they did that on purpose for optics
they're trying
reasons.
to get the Nazi vote, I guess.
That-
Which real quick
How
on
big is
the
the Nazi vote?
Uh, probably bigger than we'd like to say. Um, since we were talking about Dominion with Michael Flynn and all that, Marge has been on a tear about votes being flipped in Georgia. It's
Oh,
like,
they're all on a tear right now.
yeah, and
I
they
was
keep
listening to
saying,
right-wing radio on the way home,
mm,
and they were talking about, so I guess Michigan, the governor of Michigan just came out and was like, well, we're not going to have all our votes counted by blah, blah, blah. And the lady I was listening to was like, Florida can have all their votes counted on the same day and blah, blah, blah. And there's got to be something wrong with this if they can't get all their votes counted on the,
can I
on
explain this to you,
the
please? Because I've been waiting to explain
yeah,
this to you.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Florida, they have a lot of mail-in ballots, and they always have because a lot of old people live in Florida. So even
Hmm.
though Trump rails on and Republicans in general rail about mail-in ballots, like they need those in Florida, and like those old white people in Florida vote Republicans, so they are more than happy to let it happen. Florida has an awesome rule where the polls open at say 9 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever it is. The second the polls open, people in a back room can start counting the mail in votes right away. So a lot of times they finish the mail in votes while the polls are still open. So that's like the first drop of votes we see on TV is their mail
Yeah.
in votes. Okay. Makes sense, right?
Yeah. And if there's any state that's going to cheat, Florida's it.
Well, we don't, let's not even go there. After this election, let's go back and revisit the Gore Bush thing. But so doesn't the way Florida do it make sense? They start right away. They count the mail-in votes while the other voting's going on. Makes sense, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania and Michigan have Republican legislatures running like the state house. And
Hmm.
they've said, and people are pointing out, saying, hey, we should change our rules to be like Florida because they're not allowed to start counting the mail in votes until the polls close that night. So the polls close at
Uh,
7 o'clock, and now they can just start to do it. So last time in 2020, what happened is you saw the day of voting getting tabulated first, and Trump got a big lead. And then they started counting the mail-in votes, which leaned Democratic, and those are the vote dumps overnight.
yeah.
But to clear all that up, they both states said, "Hey, let's go ahead and change it and start do like Florida does. That way, there's no overnight dumps and this and that." And the Republicans that run Congress in those states said, "No, no changes to the rules." They want for it to be like that. They want to be able to say these are vote like it creates
Yeah.
uncertainty. Then you can say, "Why can't we or count all the votes on election day?" They could if they change the rules, and the Republicans won't let them. So they want the
Uh,
chaos. The chaos is part of their
Interesting.
strategy. Yeah. So
Interesting.
that should have happened immediately after 2020. Both of those states should have changed the rules to be just like Florida's, and we would not have an issue this coming election. But because of that, Pennsylvania and Michigan, we definitely won't know those nights. There's no way that on election night we're going to have a victor. The only way is if she wins Georgia, North Carolina, like she has to sweep all of them. That's the only way anybody would feel comfortable. There's going to be four states that are riding into 2 or 3 days past election. Election's on a
Um,
Tuesday. I think
how many
Friday.
recounts are there going to be?
So if it's under a 0.5% in most states, then whoever lost can request a recount. And then they do a ballot recount. They do a recount using the machines, basically. So they retabulate everything. And if that number changes by a certain percent, then you can request a hand recount. If they have the machines recount it and it comes up exactly the same, then it's over. But if they recount
Okay.
it and it turns out there's a slight variation, you can request a hand recount. That takes like 3 or 4 days. They have to go through and count millions of votes. So yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
and like I said, I think Friday or more likely Saturday is when we're going to find out who the winner is. And even at that, if we do have like multiple states in recounts, then that rolls into the next week, mid the next week. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting.
Wow.
So, but
Yeah.
what I was gonna say, Marge is spending all her stuff. Gabe Sterling, who turned into like a hero for like moderate Republicans in the last election, he's the Secretary of State in Georgia, and he was coming out like every day and giving press conference and like pushing back on all the stuff Trump was saying in the last election.
Oh,
And he's already back at it. He's done like two press conferences in the last 2 days where he comes out and he's saying certain legislatures from this state. He's talking about Marge. Like everybody knows he's talking about Marge, but he just won't say her name. But he's pushing back forcefully, and he's saying these are
oh, good.
lies. These are people spreading misinformation. So that guy is stepping up, and it seems like Georgia, which Trump could very well win Georgia. I'm not saying, oh, he's single-handedly, but I think he's going to keep things on the up and up. Like he's going to keep it a fair election in Georgia, and I like that. So,
Well, Biden won last time in Georgia, which is interesting.
but they changed all their election counting rules now, and if there's any sign of fraud, they can basically not certify. That's the whole right-wing takeover of their
Oh,
election board.
oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
anyhow, we'll
Did
see.
you see that North Korean soldiers were going to Russia and helping them?
So they went to Russia, and we're trying to figure out if they actually went on to the front lines or what exactly is going on. To me, that's a sign of desperation for Russia. Like if Russia's having to
Yeah.
lean on that, like that makes me think that things are not going well as far as everything in Russia, as far as fighting this war. But I'm still waiting to get more confirmation on like what exactly are they doing there? Like that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the war in Ukraine, I that thing's been pretty much at a stalemate for the last little bit. And if Trump wins, I think suddenly you're going to see Russia making advances again until Ukraine agrees to give up a bunch of land to Russia. Like that worries me.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a weird point where like I'm kind of worn out with worrying about it, and I've kind of hit a point where I'm not okay. I definitely am not okay if either side wins, but I'm setting myself up mentally for like Trump could win this, and like if it happens, I'm not going to throw a fit. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
it's so like if I had to put money on it right now, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting it on either of them. Like it's such a
No.
toss up, and it's all gonna. So the other thing I was gonna say, and we got a little bit of time here. I told you a little bit last night about this rumor going around about the mid October, I guess it'd be a late October surprise. Um,
Okay.
this is so not substantiated yet, but a guy named Mark Halperin, who's a like long time, he's a respected journalist from back in the day. He got ran out of ABC, I think, for like sexually harassing someone maybe like 15 years ago, and then he kind of went away for like 10 years, and now he's back and he's on the
Hmm.
right wing channels a lot. But he is like If he reports something, he's pretty on the money with it. So
Okay.
I'll give it that. And he came out like 4 or 5 days ago and said that on a podcast or in an interview somewhere, he said that he's been approached like twice in the last week about a story that, if true, would wreck Trump's campaign. Like it'd be over. And he said,
Okay.
and he didn't say this flat out, but he basically alluded to and said that he hasn't picked up on the story yet because it's not verifiable yet. They don't know for sure if it's true. And so he
Okay.
said that 4 days ago or so. And then yesterday, all of a sudden, and I don't know if this is BS or not, but on like Twitter and stuff, people are saying that like the rumor is that there's video of Trump molesting or groping a donor's daughter at a donor event, and there's video of it. And they're saying that
That's not gonna sink him though.
no, and they're saying that Trump, like the Trump team right now, is trying to like work out a settlement, like a basically pay these
Wait,
people off.
molesting? Molesting.
Molesting or groping are the two things I've heard. Like he grabbed her butt, or maybe he pulled her hand to his crotch. I
Oh.
don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
Could not be true. What I think is most likely is that finally this video is going to come out and it's going to be like he hugged her and his hand was a little too close to her butt. Like something that like is kind of like like
Yeah.
that was a mistake. I'll be shocked if it's like him grabbing her tit forcefully. Like I don't know that I see that happening. But today, I can't remember the guy's name to save my life, but he's on CNN a lot and he's like part of the Trump campaign. He went on like today on Aaron Burnett, I think it was, or it was with Wolf Blitzer, and he said flat out, like, yeah, we're expecting like one negative story to drop in the next couple of days, and then probably a second one next week. And like
Okay.
confirmed that like there's two bad news stories coming for Trump. And right wing like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and all that have already been prepping their listeners. Like if you see a video about Trump, like it's probably AI, it's not real. Like they're
Really?
prepping them to not believe whatever is about to come out.
Oh God.
This could totally be nothing. Nothing could come out. I just want to make that clear. Like I don't know if this is true at
Like,
all.
how do you get into a position where you are such a sycophant for somebody that you preemptively, before you even see a video, say it's fake?
It's going to be AI for sure. The
Yeah.
Democrats are going to try to cheat. That's what it is. I tell you,
This is ridiculous.
what stinks is
I wouldn't do that for Harris
no, I wouldn't either. But what
or
stinks is
anybody.
if a video did come out, let's say it was bad. Let's say he clearly violated an underage girl. Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument,
Okay.
would that change any votes?
No.
I don't like. I think
Yeah, I
I
don't think it would.
I asked two people that I know that are Trump supporters, and I just said, hey, if this turned out to be true, and it's like it's true and bad, would it change your vote? And both of them said without hesitation, no. And like they wouldn't give me any further detail. They just said no, it wouldn't change my vote. And I'm like, oh man, like that's cool. If we have video of him like within the last few weeks molesting an underage girl, you're still voting for him. Cool, got it. Just it
Isn't that
won't.
what they've been like harping on the Democrats
The
for
Democrats are yeah
for 10
molesting
years
children
now?
and eating
Yeah.
them, raping them. Yeah. Um, it'll never make sense to me, but I've become cool with the fact that like it's not gonna make sense to me. Like I'm gonna stop searching for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it would.
People,
I think it might change the smallest percentage of votes. Like, and I don't think it would change anybody to voting for Kamala. It would just maybe make a couple people that weren't really sure if they were going to go vote, maybe not go vote. But I don't think it'd
yeah.
be. I don't think it'd be enough to really sway anything. So
It's so crazy. Like, I don't understand how like anybody could be so starstruck by somebody that
yeah,
they're all in on Trump. No matter what he does, they are voting for Trump. It wouldn't matter if yeah, like he said, I could shoot somebody on Sixth Avenue.
according to everybody, Trump has this charisma about him where like even if you're not really a fan of his, like if he comes in and starts talking to you, like that's his magic ability. Like he's a
Yeah,
salesman, he's a bullshitter, and like he can walk into a room. If he walks in and he decides that he wants you to like him, he's gonna come right up to you, he's gonna give you attention, he's gonna be charming, and like even I've heard this from people that say they don't like him, and he walked in, and before they knew it, they were like, "Oh, thank you, sir," and like being buddy buddy with him just because that's his
yeah,
super. That,
yeah.
he
I'm sure
rode
he's
that
super charismatic.
he rode that to being a millionaire and to being a game show host and then to the
No,
presidency.
no, 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 no. He did not. He's not. He did not make himself a millionaire.
Oh, he bullshitted his way into he's definitely a millionaire.
Oh, he is, but he got
Yeah.
it from his dad.
Well, yeah, he definitely was
He
born
did.
into the great circumstance.
Somebody said that if he took all the money his dad gave him and directly put it into a raw like the S&P 500,
Yeah,
uh
his investment would have been more than what he had, and that was
way
like a
more
couple
than
years ago.
his dad.
That was before he ran for president. But yeah, that was like right before he ran for president. He would have
Yeah,
been
and he has
smarter.
less money now than he did then.
Well, then so he has a lot of unrealized money right now because he has all his stock in True Social. He has a stock in that new what's it called, Bitcoin type thing. He
What
could
is his stock in Truth Social?
so
Like how much is Truth his or his yeah, how much is Truth Social worth right now?
so not a lot, but I'm just saying if you told him to write down his net value on paper, he would write it down and it would probably be well over $1 billion, but all of it would be theoretical stuff, like unrealized gains on stocks. And like when he has to say his total like value, he always includes the value of his brand, the Trump name. And he says that alone is worth, and he says like $600 million or something like that. And that's theoretical. Like that's not money. He can't convert that into 600 million tomorrow.
It's funny the stock symbol is DJT.
Yep. Donald J. Trump, baby. I need to get a MAGA
Um
hat in case he wins so I can curry favor with the Republicans in my area.
it's at 34.95 right now.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of it he owns, but I'm sure that if he sold it all, he'd probably have a lot of money.
It really hasn't
It went
went
down
down.
for a while and then it bounced back up recently.
It's coming back up. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, who's even using Truth Social? Do you have an account?
No. I don't know. I guarantee you people we know probably do have an account and they won't tell us, but they probably do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well,
Interesting.
I don't know. Real quick, we were talking about John Kelly earlier with the whole, Hitler. And he also said that the key thing there is he also said that Trump is a fascist, and he said it's a fascist by definition. And I think he even like gave the dictionary definition of being a fascist. Um,
Okay.
Kamala's leaned into that in the last couple of days. Kamala had her town hall last night. Did you watch that live, or have you seen any clips of it? It was on
No.
CNN. So I feel bad because I haven't seen that, and I was hoping you were. I had a kid's birthday followed by recording the other podcast last night, so I have not seen it. I've seen clips galore, but I didn't like
Okay.
sit and watch the whole thing. Seems like she had some good answers. Seems like she definitely word saladed. I can't remember. It was immigration, maybe. It was one of those that, according to everybody, she threw up a standard Kamala word salad.
Okay.
The focus group that I saw afterward was like five undecided voters, and like two of them said they had officially decided they were voting for Kamala, and the other three said they're still undecided. Um,
Hmm.
I I can't put myself in the place of an undecided voter right now. Like if you
Hmm.
don't like just
I can.
with Trump himself, like you know who he is now. You know what he's going to do. There's nothing left. You got to wait and see.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Are you voting for him or not? I don't get that. So if you're still undecided right now and you just need to learn a little bit more, I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the undecided is mostly people who are Republicans and they
Mhm.
want to vote Republican, but they're just not sure if they can actually stomach another 4 years of Trump.
And I think Kamala's whole play right now, because at that town hall, apparently, like she called Trump a fascist every chance she had and like went negative on him. And it seems like her play right now is at those people and she's trying to get them to just stay home. Like she knows they're not going to vote for her, but if they're not quite comfortable with voting for Trump, but if they go vote, they're probably going to vote for him. She wants to put enough out there to where they decide, you know what, I can't vote for him. I'm not going to vote for anybody. I'm just going to stay home. That's her play right now.
Did you
Um,
see Tim Walz go off
oh
on
my God.
Trump and JD and
My
Elon?
favorite thing he said is he said, we had Elon out there jumping around on stage like a dipshit. I don't know why. Every candidate in this cycle has said something worse than that curse word wise, but dipshit might be my new favorite word. Elon
That
jumping around like a dipshit. I don't know, that tickled me just right. Like
kind of reminds me of Drew.
yeah, that is something. It's a grandpa thing to say. I get it because so Tim Walz, he wasn't my pick for her VP, and I thought he was too liberal. But his favorability numbers are the best out of all of them. Like everybody's not everybody, but the strong majority like Tim Walz, and like the more I see of him, I'm like he's likable for sure. Like you could
Yeah.
even say he's too liberal, but he's pretty likable.
Yeah.
He's got the whole
Well,
dad joke kind of vibe.
I don't know why they like kind of shut him down. Like I feel like the Harris campaign like kind of like put him in the back corner for a little
So
while,
the
and now they're letting him loose again. And it's like, oh, there's the guy who needs to be out there like as a spokesperson for Kamala Harris
I
every
think
day,
that
all day. I want to see Tim
the
Walz.
they used him wrong because they didn't put him in the corner. He was out there every day, but they're using him in like the rural areas, and he's going into diners and talking about pie, and he's going dove hunting, and they have him do, and it's just none of it's really camera worthy. Like to make it to see clips of it, it has to be like when JD Vance went into that donut shop. Did you see that where he went in and was trying to
Oh
like
yeah.
order donuts, and it was just awkward, and he was like, "What do you recommend?" And the lady was like, "I don't, just tell me what you want, man." Like it was really an awkward thing. And that became worthy of all of us seeing because it was awkward. Tim Walz goes in and just kind of has boring, good conversations with all these people.
Yeah.
So even though it was happening, there were no clips. There was nothing really cool to show about it. So
Yeah.
they should have had him doing that like in the afternoon, but then on the morning shows every morning or something like that. They just
Mhm.
misused him. So, and I
Yeah.
think what he did out in the country areas and the rural areas, like in Wisconsin, like it definitely helped, but I think they could have done both, is my
Yeah.
kind of take. So
Yeah. Yeah. Make him a
yeah.
workhorse.
I forgot to mention this. Did you see Tucker Carlson on stage? I think last night for Trump.
No.
Oh man, I should. This is one where I wish I had a clip ready to play for you. Um, but he basically said that like he was calling Trump daddy, and basically like daddy's coming home,
I saw that clip.
and he said young lady, you're gonna get a vigorous spanking, and then when Trump came out, the crowd was like yelling like "Spank me, daddy" or something. I don't remember exactly. It was really like you were talking about idolizing. I can't remember what they were yelling. It was I don't think it was "Spank me, daddy," but it was "Daddy's home" or "Daddy that." They were calling him daddy. It was awkward, and like I watched that and I'm like, no woman would want to hear Tucker saying that, young lady, you're going to get a vigorous spanking from Daddy Trump, basically. I to me,
There's a small percentage. Laura
so
Loomer, she's probably got it
what
written on her
here's what
wall
gets me
now.
is I when I first heard that, I was like, what woman possibly heard that and is happy? But then I saw like a cell phone video of him of that the whole thing, and the guy like panned to the crowd, and the crowd was full of young women that were going nuts over that line. Like they were
Oh,
excited about it. And I'm just like, it's one of those where it's like, I don't get it. I don't get it, and that's fine. Like I know so many Republicans that don't get me and why I would possibly vote for anybody but Trump here. So like it's just we don't get each other. Like I think that's where it's at. Like I don't get it and they don't
yeah.
get it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of like the, idolizing Taylor Swift or whatever.
So
Like there's the Swifties and they like love Taylor Swift and it's kind of on the same realm. They
I feel
just
like
idolize, they need somebody to idolize. And it goes back to our whole like alpha man thing. Alpha, beta.
here's the thing though. Like when you're a kid, you idolize athletes or maybe musicians. And
Yeah,
like maybe even in your early 20s, you can be like, I'm the biggest Troy Aikman fan or whatever, Tony Romo, I
sure.
don't know who it was. But I feel like you hit a certain point age-wise and you stop idolizing anyone, I
I don't
think.
think so. I don't think so.
Who I'm really trying to be honest with myself here. Like I can't think of anybody that I idolized. Is there anybody that you celebrity-wise like
No,
I
no.
don't.
Like
I feel like no guy my age idolizes anyone unless it's Trump. Trump's the one person that could capture someone our age
that's all
and
it
have
is.
somebody like their whole persona, shirts, hats, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's weird.
but that's idolizing somebody, right? They
Yeah, but I
idolize him, and it's weird to me. Like, and if you're gonna
fair.
pick somebody, like, why are you picking that guy? Why don't you pick somebody? I don't know. Why don't you pick Greta Thunberg or somebody?
That would be weird too. And people, if there's an adult woman that idolizes Taylor Swift, then I would say that's weird too. If it's a
Yeah,
kid, if there's kids and they got the friendship bracelets and all that, like I get it. Like when you're a kid, you do that stuff. But if it was
sure.
like someone like my age that was like, oh, I idolize,
And
yeah,
they
no,
do
I don't think they do. I don't know any women my age that idolize her.
that idolize anybody or anything.
Taylor Swift,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
But other things.
Trump is about it. I can't think.
What
Yeah,
about
I can't.
what about certain movies, movie characters?
Okay, like a fictional character, like they
Yeah,
really want to be the lady in
like
Fifty
a
Shades of
whole
Grey.
series of movies and books.
Yeah, but that's different. We're like idolizing a character is one thing. Idolizing a real life person is odd.
I think idolizing a realized person is probably more same than a character.
And I wouldn't say they idolize. I think they want to be that character.
They
They're
want to be
living in a
the
fantasy. Yeah, they're living in a fantasy.
okay,
So
okay. Hmm.
anyhow, let me see here. The last fun thing that I had was JD Vance had a town hall tonight on I believe it's News Nation is the station. It's got Chris Cuomo. News Nation is a sneaky good news station, just so you know.
Okay.
Um, they have Dan Abrams, who I've always really liked. In the evening, Dan Abrams is on at like 7 for me, and then Chris Cuomo's on at 8. And they
Hmm.
both do a really solid job of not being on a side. Like they'll call out the stupidity on both sides. And they also don't spend the entire show talking about like the election. Like that's my
Okay.
one critique. If I always say CNN does a good job of presenting both sides, but they still spend the entire hour talking about 7 things Trump did today versus like other things going on. Like they'll hit on Israel real quick, but it's mainly let's talk about this. Whereas News Nation, like here's the Trump thing for the day, here's the Kamala thing for the day, and now we're going to talk about 4 more things that the other stations probably aren't covering. So little shout out to them. They do a good job. But they had
Okay.
JD Vance on tonight, and I got to watch part of it. It wasn't bad. JD Vance is much better spoken than Trump, and I
Yeah.
also think if JD Vance didn't have to defend the shit that Trump says, he would be overall have a higher favorability. Like if he could just be his own person, but instead he has to defend a lot of shit Trump does and says, and that's hard.
He's on the level of Ted Cruz for me. Ted Cruz and
He's a much smoother Ted Cruz. Like he's same kind
yeah,
of guy, but he's
yeah,
better at it. He's
yeah.
a good speaker. He almost comes across as likable. Like his favorability ratings have gone up quite a bit. He's still negative, but he's gone up quite a bit.
Yeah,
But
he's just slimy. He's just a slimy guy.
Yeah, but I think he's definitely primed to take over for Trump here real soon. I've heard a conspiracy theory, and I don't know if you've seen this, but people are saying that like the play, because the first time around, even when Trump did bad shit and like could have gotten impeached, like he wasn't going to get impeached, and nobody was clamoring for Mike Pence to take over. Like even Republicans didn't want that. Republicans really like JD Vance, and there's a theory going along on the internet that like is like Peter Thiel and Elon and a lot of the donors, like the Heritage Foundation, who they're the whole Project 2025 group, like they love JD Vance. Like
Yeah,
Heritage Foundation is who
they're
recommended Vance
funning
to
him.
Trump.
Yeah.
They're he is their creation, and you could say kind of their puppet. Like they created him, and there's a theory that if Trump wins, Trump's basically the vehicle to get JD Vance into power. And if
Yeah.
Trump has a little misstep here or there, like he'll get impeached or they'll 25th Amendment him, they'll get him out of there to get Vance in charge. Because if you're a
Ooh.
Republican and you want things to get done, I think Vance could get them done way better than Trump. Trump creates a distraction all the time and
Yeah.
fails to get anything done. Give JD Vance power, and it's not going to be stuff that I would necessarily like. I'm just saying he would get stuff done
Yeah.
way better than Trump. But
Scary.
while JD Vance was having his town hall tonight, guess who calls in? They're doing a town hall. Listeners or viewers or in the audience are asking questions, and who do you think calls in?
There's a call in?
There was one call in.
Okay.
Who
Uh,
calls in to ask a question to JD Vance?
Peter Thiel.
Donald J. Trump.
Oh God. Okay.
Guess what Trump? I'm not even going to make you guess, but it's such a Trump question. His question was, "Isn't President Trump wonderful?" or something along those lines. I wish I could remember
Holy
it.
moly.
Or isn't he brilliant or something like that? And like, basically, I'll hang up and listen. And then JD Vance had to sit there and talk about how awesome Trump is.
Oh God.
It was the saddest little thing, and it was almost like Trump's reminding everyone, like, no, 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 I'm like he was almost jealous of the attention of JD Vance. Or the whole reason I'm telling this is, or I think Trump sees the shit online, and if there's people talking about, all these different Republican donors are using Trump as the vehicle to get Vance into power. It's a little late, and I don't think anything happened, but I think I'll bet money if you put enough time on like in Twitter and had some people talking about it, you could turn Trump against Vance to where he'd be attacking Vance.
Oh
Like I think it's
yeah.
too late. We should have started this like a month ago, but we could have had Trump like saying negative shit about Vance because he's worried Vance is trying to
Has
kick him
any
out of the way.
president ever fired their vice president?
Not that I can think of. Yeah, I don't think so. Anyhow, it's just a fun little theory, I could kind of see that. I don't think that Republican voters would go along with it, but I think that like the Heritage Foundation and Peter Thiel and Elon and all that would do it in a heartbeat.
I
So
kind of want Trump to get elected just so he fires JD Vance.
it'd be so funny if they had like a power struggle between the two of them, wouldn't it? Like that'd be epic. Okay. Let me run through here.
JD Vance slowly starts poisoning him.
No, so I think that the whole if you're gonna take a shot at the king, you better not miss.
Yeah.
Trump's Teflon, dude. I think that if I could see JD going down in this attempt, like if JD tried
Uh,
to pull some shit, or if these different people and donors tried to start pulling some shit, I think Trump would sniff it out, and at the end of the day, Trump would still be standing. As as much as I don't like the guy, he's got that unique survival capability. You
he
got to admit
does.
it.
He
Yeah.
really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Think
he's
about
still out of jail. He's still not in jail right now.
think of all the shit since 2008. The Donald, or I only say since 2008 because birtherism. Real quick, I'm already mad about something that hasn't happened yet. Do you ever get like that where you're just pissed because you know
Yeah.
it's gonna
Yeah.
happen? The fact that I know it's gonna happen is pissing me off more than if it had just happened. But Trump's going on Rogan tomorrow. I think overall this is a positive. I honestly do. I think that Joe will let Trump ramble, and I think there will be so many clips that come out of this that you could use against Trump
Yep.
versus clips you could use
I
for
mean,
him.
he's already
Okay.
said everything though.
Yeah, true, 100%. Um, But at some point tomorrow, Joe's going to bring up the whole, everybody used to love you. Rappers loved you, and you were a favorite of everybody. And then you ran for president as a Republican, and people started disliking you, which isn't the history. It bothers me. Okay, people started hating Donald Trump in like 2009. Do you remember why?
Because the birtherism.
Yes, because he
Yeah.
started saying that Obama wasn't born here, and I have private investigators in Hawaii, and they're finding out all kinds of terrible things, and I'll share it with you in 2 weeks, and all that stuff. So he became a joke to a lot of people in like 2009, 2010, and he kept up with birtherism all the way to like 2014, 2015. I mean, so that's when America turned on him. Was not everybody, but that's when half of America turned on him, and a lot
Right.
of black people started saying he's racist because our first
Yep.
black president he's trying to save was born in Africa. So
Right.
I guarantee you at some point tomorrow, Joe and Trump are going to talk about, isn't that funny that all of a sudden you turn Republican and people start hating you? No, that's
Yeah.
not how it went. Anyhow,
Is
it
Joe
bothers
gonna
the
do
hell
a
out of me.
good job? Is Joe gonna do a good job with this? That's the
I think he's going to be, if anybody's mad at him, it's going to be the left, and they're going to be mad at him for not pushing back. But Joe has said repeatedly that he doesn't push back. Like he lets the person talk.
yeah.
The only way that we could say it's fair or not is if Kamala also goes on, and
Yeah.
however he treats Trump, he treats her exactly the same. And I think he would probably do that. I think get on, let them both talk. But that's what I
Yeah.
think is going to happen. Is I think right off the bat, the first reaction will be, "Oh my God, I can't believe Joe Rogan let him get away with lying about this or that," and people will be upset. And then it'll turn though, and there's going to be clips of, "Oh my God, Trump was denying the 2020 election again," or Trump was talking about Haitians eating dogs and cats. It'll be a bunch of stuff like that that it'll turn out that it's a good thing that Trump just or that Joe just let him talk. But the initial reaction is going to be, how could he have not pushed back on that?
I'd like Tim Walz to go on Rogan over Kamala, actually. I think
I'd
I
like,
think there'd be more of a buddy buddy conversation
I
with
think Walls, Cuban would be my number one.
Cuban would be good.
And
Yeah.
even I don't, I feel weird because I know more about this guy now, but Charlemagne the God, are you familiar with him?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I like him, and the reason I kind of started, I don't watch. He's got a show that's popular, like The Breakfast Club or something like that. I
Breakfast
don't
Club,
watch that
yeah.
at all. But him and Andrew Schultz do a like weekly podcast where they talk to just politics. And Schultz is a Trump guy, and Charlemagne's a Harris guy, and it's actually like informative. They not. I think Charlemagne keeps up with stuff. Schultz doesn't really, but
Yeah.
it's a good YouTube watch. I would recommend where they just talk about what's going on, and they're both pretty honest when their person does something stupid. But he
Schultz
was
is
on,
a Trump guy?
yeah. Um, but Charlemagne was
What?
on CNN tonight, and him and Anderson Cooper were like in good spirit where we're going at it. At one point, he said something to Anderson Cooper, and Anderson Cooper was like, "That's bullshit," and like they were going back and forth.
Huh.
But he turns out he's a really good Harris surrogate, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
he could. I think he would have the right approach to talk to Joe and possibly get some shit through to Joe. I think also Mark Cuban could like find a way to relay it to Joe in a way Joe's going to get it and not push back. I think Walls would not be as effective, but I'd still love to see him go on there.
They need to hurry up though.
Yeah, that's
People are
what
already
I
voting.
I think. Everybody's talking about votes are already being cast. Real quick, the votes that are being cast are the people that were going to vote no matter what, and they weren't going to have their minds changed. The
Yeah.
people that count are on election day because those are the people that wait till the last minute. Nah, my wife keeps telling me I should vote and this and that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
those are the people that are either going to show up or not, and who are slightly persuadable to either flip, not really, but maybe flip, or just don't vote because you fall out of love with one of them. So all the votes happening right now were already there wasn't a lot that was going to change those. So we're like it's not there was a bit of a panic of like votes are already being cast. No, these votes were locked in 6 months ago. Like these votes that are being cast right now. So the true is going to be election day.
Yeah.
So
Man, it's
we'll have to
coming
see.
up, dude.
Do the Democrats have the ground game that everybody keeps talking about? They keep talking about how that's the one thing that gives me a weird hope right now is they keep saying like the Democrat ground game is rolling right now. Like they are getting people out, they are doing souls to the polls and all these different things, and the Republicans aren't doing that. I don't know if I trust that. They're saying that and they're saying it with confidence, but I don't know about it at all. So
Hmm.
we'll see.
Well,
Yeah.
shit. It's yeah, scary times, sir.
Like I said, I'm kind of bracing myself for like, it could be President Trump again. And if that happens, the news is going to be really interesting for 4 years.
It's yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's a little scary.
it is. So
That's a
it's
little,
way too close for comfort. Like, and I know that there are Republicans right now that are like, I can't believe with how dumb Joe and Kamala are that this is even close. Like they think Trump should be out to a big lead. They are out there and they believe that. Whereas I'm in the opposite boat where I'm like, after everything Trump has done and said, this is close.
and
Like I
didn't
don't
do
understand it. What's that?
and didn't do in his first term.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that we're even thinking about giving Trump 4 more years. But again, there's somebody out there that's on the complete, there's a lot of people that are on the complete opposite side as me, and they can't believe this is even close because they think Trump should run away with it. So that's the theme of my night is I can't believe how confident each side is. There are people online right now that are saying that, oh, for sure my side's gonna win. And I'm like, what are you looking at where you think that? I guess maybe you're just trying to be positive, but I don't see that at all. This is close. Like there's no clear there's for a long time they said, well, you'd rather be in Kamala's shoes, you'd rather be in her spot, but it's
Yeah.
close. And right now they're not saying that. You don't know whose side you'd rather be on there. It's close.
I'm hoping that this is all kind of a farce by the left. I'm hoping that they're they're not like pushing it because if you say, "Oh, Kamala's going to blow him out of the water," then people don't go vote, right? They're like, "Oh, I don't need to vote because Kamala." So I'm hoping that they're just kind of playing mind games and giving Trump a little bit of a lead with some of these polls and stuff. And like,
So to believe that though, you believe that the Dems are controlling all these independent polls.
no, I'm hoping voters are doing that as well.
Oh, you think
I'm
the
hoping
voters
it's
are
a
lying to the pollsters?
yeah.
One,
If they call me, I'll be like, "Yeah, I'll vote for Trump."
okay, well, that's not smart. First of all, if they called you, in reality, if they called you, you're not going to answer. Okay.
That's
Also,
true.
I was reading these polls in depth today, like the two most recent the ones that came out. We had a couple, like a string of not great ones for Kamala, and then two of them came out today that were looking a lot better for Kamala. But then I
Okay.
looked and like the one in Pennsylvania, they polled like 879 voters, and I'm like, to me, that's a really small sample size. Like you called 879 random people, and based off of that, you're ready to give me a poll of the state. And then the one in Georgia was like 1,180 voters. So like we're dealing with right around 1,000 voters for these polls, and it's people that are willing to answer their phone to a spam number, like a number that they
Yeah.
don't know that is
Yeah.
clearly a telemarketer, and they answered and they said, "Oh yeah, I'll take your survey." So
Yeah.
those are the people being polled. Those are likely voters. For a long time, we had the polls were a lot better because the likely voters were old people, and old people were going to answer their landline and answer a survey. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have all these young people entering the voting sphere, and like they don't answer to these numbers. Like I'm sure it's got to be hard as hell to poll these kids. So like I don't it's really all going to come down to was Kamala successful with Roe versus Wade and all that at getting the young women out, Taylor Swift and all that? Did they get more
Yeah.
young women out, or Trump going on Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Patrick Bet David? He went on with Dan Bongino. Is he going to get the young men out? And traditionally, you would say you'd put your money on the young women are coming out because that's how it
Yeah. Yeah.
always goes. But maybe Trump might pull it off with some ridiculous like he got the largest number ever of 18 to 35-year-old males to come out. Those people don't vote. I didn't vote until I was like 28 or 30
Yeah.
or something. Like you just don't do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You don't have time. You got better things to do.
the only thing that I think makes me feel better is like there's like 2 million people that listen to Joe Rogan per episode, but like those are the same people that also listen to Theo and that listen to like I think it's a mix of those same people. So it's
Yep.
not like they're gaining 2 million more people because they're going on a variety of shows. The
Yeah.
shows they're going on kind of all share the same audience. So
True. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of
No,
what
and
I'm
that
thinking.
kind of yeah, that kind of hurts him, I think.
Yeah.
Shit. Rogan. When does that come out? He's filming on Friday, or
They
they're doing the
record
podcast.
tomorrow. They're recording it, and I
Okay.
hope he puts it out ASAP. Like I'll sit down and watch that. It'll drive me nuts. I'm gonna take notes the whole time.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
but yeah, like I'm gonna sit down and watch that. And I think if I had to put money on it, I think Kamala's team is waiting to see how that goes to say whether or not they're doing it. They're probably kind of putting Joe off, and oh, well, we got a real busy week. We'll let you know next week. But they want to wait and see. And if Trump does something, let's say Trump's amazing in this interview, and Joe does a great job of humanizing him and oh shit, Kamala's in trouble. Now she's got to go. She can't sit
Oh
back. She's
yeah.
got to go do it. But if Trump goes on there and rambles and looks old or slow or says crazy shit and overall it doesn't really help him, don't put her on there. Try to get Cuban on there, but don't put her on there. So that's
Yeah.
they're smart to sit back and see how this goes. So
I think
that's
Cuban. I think you're right. Cuban's the best one. Or John
I think
Stewart. Cuban or John Stewart.
I wish Jon Stewart would, but I for whatever reason I just don't see that happening. But I wish he would do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I since we don't have an election to bet on right now, what would that's my guess of the Rogan interview is that it's overall like nothing huge is going to happen. There's going to be more clips of Trump saying crazy shit, and ultimately not a lot changes. That's my prediction of what's going to happen with the Rogan interview. What do you say?
I say he's going to stop the interview about two questions in and want to play music.
Dance?
Ave Maria.
That's what. What'll be funny. It's not going to be a 3 hour. There's no way that Trump sits
No,
in there for 3 hours and talks. They're going to do about 45 minutes to maybe an hour. If it goes over an hour, I'll be shocked. But be be prepared because next time we meet on here, we're gonna review the Joe Rogan interview of Donald Trump. So be
oh,
ready
for
for that.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
But what's your real? I know you said he's only going to take two questions. What's your real take? Do you think this is going to be a net positive for Trump or a net negative?
I think it's neutral.
Okay.
I don't think he gains many followers. I don't think he loses any followers. I think it's going to be neutral because he's just going to say the same stuff that he's always said time and time again. Joe Rogan's not going to push him. Joe Rogan's not going to ask him any like hard-hitting questions. It's a
Mhm.
friendly interview. He's just gonna he might ramble a bit and say crazy shit, but I think he said all the crazy shit he's going to say in
Okay.
this
Do you think
election.
do you think Joe's going to offer any substantive pushback at all on anything?
Marijuana.
Well, I think Trump came out recently and said he thinks the state because Kamala said she thinks that they should legalize marijuana, and then Trump came out immediately afterward and said the same thing. So I don't think they're
Uh,
going to disagree on that.
but DeSantis in Florida is saying he doesn't want it to be legal.
He's fighting it. Yeah, they're putting a lot of money into fighting it.
There's a lot of
So
right wingers still like not on board with marijuana.
yeah, 100%. Sauger, Crystal and Sauger is not down with legalizing it at all. Yeah, he talks about it a
Really?
lot. Yeah.
And isn't that like shouldn't that be like a Republican like talking point? Like people can do whatever they want.
That's one of those things where the right kind of abandoned that to a degree and the left swooped in and now they're doing the whole my body my choice thing, which I'm like, "Oh wow, that was the Republican thing just 4 years ago and now the left is saying
I've
my
been
body my
saying that. Yeah,
choice."
I've been saying that for a couple of years now.
It's interesting. So, besides marijuana pushback, is you think Trump just in general, do you think Rogan will give some pushback or will he just sit there and look enamored and let Trump talk?
Like about marijuana.
No, I'm saying take marijuana off the table. No marijuana.
Okay.
Other tariffs or January 6th.
I hope he does, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, I don't think he will either. I think he'll just let him
Yeah.
talk and
And
he'll agree and
yeah.
nod. He'll say a lot of I didn't know that. Oh, really? I didn't know that. That'll be a whole bunch. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And
I actually hope he asks him about the Haitians and Kelly asking or talking about him being a fascist, and
well,
I would like him to bring that stuff up, but
and a couple weeks ago, Joe was making fun of Trump for claiming he won the debate against Harris. If you don't know if you saw that.
oh,
Yeah, but
oh yeah,
he
bring
was
that up.
and that's the thing is though tomorrow at some point Trump's going to say, "Well, I totally beat her in the debate," and like that's what I'm looking for right there. Is Joe just going to go, "Uh-huh," or it's like,
Uh,
"No, you made fun of him for saying that a couple weeks ago. Are you going to push back or not?" And I think that Joe is smart and knows where his bread is buttered. He knows who his listeners are, and they will not take kindly to him pushing back on Trump. That's
Yeah.
what worries me is if he has Kamala on, his listeners will be mad if he lets her talk and doesn't push back. That's why I'd like to think it'd be a fair both ways thing, but I think he would push back on Kamala a lot more than he would on Trump because he
And
knows those.
Trump does that thing where he like says something crazy, but he just continues to go on and like brings it into another subject and maybe
In your
says
mind,
something crazy there.
no, in your mind, you're like, "Ooh, I got to circle back to that." But then he says something else crazy, and you're like, "Never mind, forget the first thing. I gotta." And then he says another, and by the end, you're like, "There were seven things that I wanted to confront, but I can only remember the last one." He's the king
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to like I've seen interviewers actually like stop him. Hold on, no, 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 stop.
yeah.
Like, yeah, and that's
Jonathan
what you have to
Swan.
do.
Jonathan Swan was, I don't think it was Politico. I can't remember who, but he's the one who had the interview with Trump right at the end of Trump's first administration, right before the election. And Trump was like, "We're leading the world in COVID." And he like kept stopping and being like, "Hey, I have the charts right here. Like, show me what you mean." And he was like, it was a master class on how to like hold Trump to like what he's saying. And nobody's ever done it that good since. But
Uh,
yeah, we'll
huh.
see. And Rogan's not going to be the first to do it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we can hope. Let's hope Rogan actually does his job. Hopefully he's studying right now.
I doubt it. So yeah, all right, he's studying with Trump. Trump's like, "Here's what I want you to ask me." Like, I think that's what's
Yeah,
happening. So, all
yeah.
right, the next episode will be a review of Rogan and Trump. All right.
All right. All
All right,
right.
have a good
Sounds
night,
good.
buddy.
Yeah, you too, man. Later.
Later. Bye.